Hello and welcome to the Rewind, where we dive into the making and legacy of various films from cult classics to award-winning masterpieces. Today's film is Rocky 5, the then last chapter in the Rocky story that stars Sylvester Stallone as boxing champion Rocky Balboa, who, after his triumphant victory over Ivan Drago, returns to the US only to find his accountant has drained his finances and that he is suffering from brain damage. Returning to the slums of Philadelphia, Rocky takes over the gym once owned by his trainer Mickey, where he finds a hungry young fighter named Tommy Gunn, who he takes on as his protege. The least revered film in the Rocky franchise, Rocky 5 is the film that was supposed to end the Rocky saga. It is an interesting film to look back on because this is Rocky and Stallone entering into 1990s that is very different to the decade that where he became a superstar. And talking today about Rocky 5 and all things Stallone, this era is John Fallon. John, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, no worries. Thanks for having me. I'm always happy to talk Rocky and especially Rocky 5, which yeah, that was rough. That was really rough.
I remember, so this came out in 1990, so I was 10 in, no, 9 in 1990, but I didn't watch it in 1990. I must have watched it in 92, 91 when it came out on video.
Hmm.
I don't remember ever watching this one in the cinema.
I
Um,
did actually. I
and
saw it.
You saw it in the cinema. Now, the
Yeah.
thing about this movie to me is that I kept hearing rumors about it. So, of course, this is pre-internet and I'm 10, 11 years old. I'm not reading trades or anything. So you go by what your cousins tell you or your friends and all that. And people are like, there's a new Rocky movie. Rocky supposedly dies in the movie.
Hmm.
And this is one that was going on quite a bit here in the suburbs of New South Wales. So just let you know back then. Supposedly Arnold Schwarzenegger is playing a German wrestler and he kills Rocky in the ring. I was like, oh my God, what the hell, you know? Of course, none of this stuff happens in the film, but it's funny to look back on how that's kind of like what the Gravepine was like, pre-internet and such. And then I watched the movie, and I gotta say, look, it was funny to me watching the film, seeing how to try to take Rocky back to like the older stuff. But there were things about the movie that I quite liked as well. And I still do like the movie as well, but I think a lot of it for me comes down to a certain love for the character where I have a nostalgia kind of mixed in with it. That there's a
Hmm.
part of me that kind of like I cannot dislike a Rocky film. Maybe that's what it is with me. However, I got to say, if I was going to rank them all, fives all the way down to the bottom. That's including the Creed
Hmm.
films as well, for me, out of all of
Hmm.
them. But yeah, it's an interesting film to watch back then as a young Rocky fan and to watch again now as I'm older. So you saw it in the cinema. What was that
Hmm.
experience like going to the Rocky films? And was that the first Rocky film you saw in the cinema? Did you watch any of the other ones as well?
Uh, 4 was the first one I
Oh,
saw
that
in
would have been
cinemas.
awesome.
Yeah, that was very awesome. I love 4, and my dad hated it. I'll always remember that because he grew up, he loved Rocky, the original,
Yep.
and Rocky 2 and Rocky 3, even though it became a bit more MTV-ish, if you will, montages and music and everything. It still kept the grounding, right? Grounding. The realism, almost like a documentary feel to the film. But Rocky 4 went full on
Mm.
MTV. And my dad hated it, so I always remember that. But I was excited for Rocky 5, and when I first saw it, I enjoyed it. And still like the bits that I enjoyed about the picture back then still resonate with me today. So, for example, the scene in Mickey's gym when
Mm.
Rocky is flashbacking, "Get up, you son of a bitch," because always gets me, always gets me. Um, the ascent of Tommy Gunn under, like, I thought they had a great idea, to have basically Rocky become Mickey and train, but basically what they wound up doing in Creed,
Yep.
so where Rocky's training a young fighter. And I love that part of the film. I thought the ascent, the camaraderie, uh, even the fights were great. But then, and I mean, I'll jump into my negatives, through our conversation, but then Tommy Gunn turns like that. He becomes a mustache twirling villain, where he was just, an aggressive farm boy before who had, daddy issues. And then he just switches like that because of money and fame and becomes like an evil person, which
Right.
I never believed that transition from cool dude, nice dude's got some anger issues, who becomes like a full-on villain. I never believed in that.
What's interesting about Stallone's career at that time, so if you go back to like how your father was talking about how much he loved the first Rocky movie because of the grittiness, like that was 76. So next year is going to be what,
Yeah.
the 50th anniversary or something next year, I
Yeah, I
think,
think
of
so,
Rocky.
yeah. Yeah.
And so when he transitions into the 80s, he adapts his style and he adapts the story to what the decade is at the time, the kind of like
Hmm.
the extravagance and everything else about it. So that's why the movies work so well because he's able to kind of shift that over. Um, but I think the thing about Rocky 5 that kind of always stood out to me, it was a bit that meme of Steve Buscemi with the holding onto the skateboard. He's like, "Hey kids, how you doing?" kind of thing. I think it was trying too
Yeah.
hard to kind of tap into the things that were going on in America at the time, which is interesting because I was reading back about what was happening in America in '89 and '90. There was a recession. It was called more of a mini recession, but people were down and out. There was a lot of unemployed. Grunge was coming in. That was kind of changing stuff.
Hmm.
Filmmakers were different, and films were becoming different as well. So I think he was trying really hard to kind of tap into that kind of like that thing that was in the air. And it's interesting because he said that he couldn't foresee making a Rocky movie where Rocky is like the guy from '85 with the Ferrari and everything because it just
Mm.
seemed like he was too out of step with what was happening at the time. But in his attempt to try to be in step with what was happening at the time, he kind of outed himself as being like, "I'm not from that time." And I think that was something that
Hmm.
really stands out for me with that film.
Well, definitely. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of this, but the initial cut had more like classical music, well, not classical music, but a composer, Bill Conti, and then eventually they wound up putting hip hop,
Yeah.
really bad hip hop in my opinion, because 90s hip hop for me personally, it was not like la creme de la creme, as they say. And but it was really trying to appeal to the kids and be hip, and for me that backfired because it didn't feel like a Rocky movie. The whole thing, actually, if I would have to say the main problem with this film, and it's got a lot of problems in my opinion, which we'll talk about, is it's not authentic. It
Yeah.
doesn't come
Right.
off as authentic. And Rocky is everything, but not authentic. If that made sense, I'm not sure. But Rocky 1, Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4, Rocky Balboa, Creed movies. I believe it. I believe it. Rocky 5, you're faking. You're fronting. It doesn't come from a place of truth. Rocky losing his money, that's right out the gate. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
He just fought the biggest fight the world has ever seen. He basically stopped the Cold War. So you're trying to tell me, even if let's say if I swallow this old accountant, the money thing with Paulie, if I believe in that, but you're trying to tell me that this guy would rather bring his family in the streets, home, basically almost homeless, than go sell some watches,
Yeah.
go be be a brand sponsor for some shit. I mean, that makes no sense whatsoever, or even take a fight. Although we all know, if he gets hit again, he might get permanent brain damage, which I'm sure you've heard that Stallone found out down later on that was BS. Like the
Mm.
the the illness that they name drop, which I forgot, wouldn't cause irreparable brain damage. So he was like, "Yeah, oopsies, they're screenwriters, not doctors." But yeah, I didn't believe how Rocky wound up there. I didn't believe that Rocky, who was, a bit dense in part one and part two, and then three kind of, leveled up, and then four, he became a regular person. And and then you're gonna take that ascension and just try to drop it all the way to the ground and make him even more come across as more dense, just because you're trying to recapture the magic of the original. It just didn't work for me. Rocky Balboa literally succeeded in everything that Rocky 5 failed. Rocky
Mm.
Balboa got to actually recapture the essence of the original, from the original being a young man, you know, to now an old man, and the loss that comes with, but it comes from a place of truth. And that's why Rocky Balboa hits, and that's why Rocky hits. But Rocky 5 doesn't come from a place of truth, in my opinion.
So I was listening to these interviews in my research. Was a UK show called Film 90, and they were talking about, decision to kind of bring Rocky, like we're saying again, like the kind of descent, that this quick descent of this
Yeah.
successful boxer to like again a almost kind of vagrant kind of guy, like to the point where they have to move back in Paulie's old house from like from 76. That's
Yeah,
the only thing they
exactly.
actually held. And Stallone said that he said he wanted to show through Rocky that what seems invincible today can be invalid tomorrow. Like in the click of a finger, everything that you have can just be turned to go up in flames. And there's some truth to that. I mean, there's a lot of times there's athletes. I know I follow the NBA, so there's a lot of NBA players over the years that have made millions upon millions of dollars, and then they don't lose it all because they spend money on their friends, or they have sugar mamas, or they have this like sorry, baby mamas, and they have all this stuff, and all the money's gone, and they end up being like a what's it called, a manager in a Starbucks or something like that. That's like a true thing that's happened to some of these guys. But going back with like we were saying before about, he is a national hero, and you
Hmm.
telling me right now he can't even get a gig, I don't know, doing analysis, commentary. He can't get a
Yeah.
loan. He can't get a loan to open up several Mickey gyms around the world, train and be like Rocky. I think a million people would go into that. So that is definitely a flaw in Stallone's kind of thing. Kind of, I understand the thought process, but the way that he kind of
Hmm.
about and doing it, I think he kind of with a lot of things in his movie, I think he just looked over so many things to try to get to the end point that the parts in the middle, there's so many gaps in logic in it, it just doesn't work. Another thing is continuity, which we'll talk about later as well, the continuity
Mm.
problems without the film. One thing he does do, though, which I thought was interesting, is that he opted not to direct this one. So he directed two, three, and four,
Hmm.
and so he brings
Yeah.
back John G. Avildsen, who did the
Yeah.
first Rocky, did Karate Kid, everything else. Um, and he said, yeah, straight away to come back. But the thing about all of this is that the original script had Rocky dying at the end, and that's why
Yeah.
Everton wanted to come back, right? So I thought it was kind of interesting he came back. Do you think though that if Stallone directed the film, we would have had a different movie, or do you think that he was maybe thoughts that he couldn't capture what that first movie had, and it had to take maybe up to 2006 and Rocky Balboa for him as a filmmaker to be able to capture the essence he was looking for.
Um, I think Stallone, the Rocky movies, in terms of Stallone, seem to parallel his own life.
Yeah,
So, part one, where, underdog, and part two, part three, when Stallone himself, started to become incredibly famous. Part four, the really stratosphere of fame for Sylvester Stallone, and Rocky in, Rocky four. And a Rocky five in the 90s, Stallone was having a hard time, like in terms of the films that he was making, being financially viable. Um, and from what I've heard through like many, interviews or articles, whatnot, is that even if Stallone is not directing, he pulls his weight.
yeah,
He has a say. Like, he's not the kind of guy that's, "Man, I'm just not going to say anything because I'm not directing." Oh no, I mean, look at Nighthawks. He basically directed Nighthawks.
Cobra.
Look, yeah, Cobra, Rambo 2. So I'm pretty, so to answer your question in an incredibly long-winded way, no, I do not think we would have had a different film, really. I just think that's where Stallone was at the time. And I know, like, even the photography is too bright. It's too, even the photography doesn't feel authentic. I know vaguely that they were not happy with the DP. So, and even the feel of it, the vibe of it is, it's not the glitz and the polish of four. It's not the grit of one, two, three. It's something else. I don't know.
Hi guys, Matt here from Matt's Movie Reviews, letting you know that the Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel has launched channel membership. This provides exclusive videos and other cool stuff as well for all channel members. It's under one tier, one price, and with that one price you get exclusive reviews. For example, I'll be going through the American Film Institute's top 100 movies. So every week I'll do a new review based on that movie list. You can get exclusive reviews based on your requests. Request a movie review and I will review it for you. You'll also get exclusive content for behind the scenes stuff as well. You also get exclusive interviews that I haven't posted yet as part of my podcast, like older interviews with Academy Award winners and other great filmmakers and actors as well, and all of a bunch of other cool stuff as well. I hope you can all join up, be part of this great experience I have on offer for you. Support indie content creators, support a movie critic like myself who is trying to make it through the content creator space. Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel memberships. Please join and get some great exclusive content.
Uh,
Talked about some of the cast that are in this film. We've talked about Stallone, of course. He comes back. He's the writer, probably producer in this as well, all sorts of things. Talia Shire returns as Adrian, Rocky's
mhm,
wife by his side all the time. I read that at the time she was doing both, so Rocky 5 and Godfather Part 3. But she
mhm,
was also doing it like really chronic back problems, she was saying at the time. And so she was like making Rocky 5 in Philadelphia and LA, and then when she's not needed on Rocky, she's flying to Rome and Sicily. She's doing that with a really bad back in all in between her. And you
mhm,
can kind of see that in the performance because you understand that like Adrian and Rocky are going through some stuff and they're kind of like forlorn and all that. But even when Rocky is presented on the screen, and even when he puts the levers back on and a hat and he's trying to replicate that stuff, it still
mhm.
looks like Sylvester Stallone, kind of like who's going
Yeah.
through like a lot of good stuff and all that. But Talia was looking like she was what kind of like really kind of wrung out in the movie, and you could see it on
Mhm.
in throughout the film as well. And I feel it's kind of interesting how she was doing both of these movies. Interestingly enough, two films that are most maligned in both franchises as well. Going
Yeah.
and doing that with a bad back, I think it was pretty interesting to hear about that info as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I don't think there's a bad performance, really, a bad actors in the film. I do think there's bad writing that often enough don't make the actors look really good. So, Sage Stallone, for example, had a lot of cringe, from in my opinion, obviously, cringe dialogue. Um, Again, not authentic. The whole he rebels against his dad, starts wearing that earring and he's all tough guy like that, like that. Took one fight at school, Tommy coming in and let from he was a regular rich kid and now suddenly he's from that hood. And I didn't buy it. I actually hated that subplot. I love Rocky Five. If I had to decide, I would go, first of all, he wouldn't lose all his money. He wouldn't have an ailment, which I felt completely negated. It's a bit like Alien 3, when Newt and Hicks are dead. It
Yeah,
kind
trade
of
off. Yeah.
completely spits on the peak of the film that came before. So it's okay. So he just fought Drago, killed
Mm.
Apollo, and he stopped the Cold War indirectly. And now you're gonna right first frame when his head is laying down, or second frame, and the water good Adrian is can't stop
Hands are
shaking. I'm like,
shaking.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
hands are shaking, and I'm like, oh, really? That's what right out the gate. That's what you're gonna do to the character? I just didn't buy it. But like I was saying, for me, it would have been Rocky doesn't want get in the ring anymore, and he trains Tommy Gunn to become the top guy. That's the part of the movie that I love, and that's the movie I wanted to see more of personally.
Speaking of Sage Stallone, of course, the late son of Sylvester Stallone, I think he's
Hmm.
like 11 or 12 when he does this film. Stallone said, I was, I found another video I found was like this hour-long interview he did on Donahue. Do you remember Donahue,
Yeah,
the
of
old
course.
baby?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he and Sage Stallone are on stage talking about the film. And like people are asking questions about the film and such, and Stallone's being very charming and everything, but he insisted that Sage auditioned and that he won the process, which I kind of find not to be believable at all. I think he maybe just wanted
yeah.
his to help out his son do this. But he also said that he found that the relationship between Rocky and Rocky Jr., Robert, is kind of biographical because Stallone himself said that he has been absent for a very long time
Hmm. Hmm.
from the life his son been shooting and all that. So a lot of the stuff that Sage was doing through Robert, where he kind of like you like tell his dad off and all that stuff. A lot of that stuff supposedly was a little bit of a little cut close to home there and such. And I think that's a kind of interesting way to kind of look at it. I mean, if we're talking about how the films parallel
Yeah.
Stallone's life, I think a relationship with his son in that context would have been interesting. I imagine he was thinking as well, look, if I'm going to do another one, the kid's old enough to be in a movie. Um, but however, has anyone solved the mystery of how the kid aged like 3 or 4 years in 1 year?
No, it never happened. Yeah, from Rocky 5 to Rocky Balboa. Yeah. Oh no, actually, from Rocky 4 to Rocky
Oh,
5,
to
you
Rocky
mean? Yeah,
Five,
oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. But even well, Rocky Balboa actually, now that I think about it, could be feasible. It is feasible actually. But yeah, no, nobody ever mentioned it. I didn't mind. I mean, I didn't mind it. It's you got to let some stuff go now and then. That's one of those cases. It's still a film. It's a movie. It's not real life. And Sage was a better actor than the kid that played, the character in Four, in my
Right.
opinion, obviously. Um, but yeah, or what did you think? Actually, let me ask you a question. The character that's basically a poor man's Don King. What did you
George
think of that
Washington.
character? Yeah, Duke. Yeah,
George Washington Duke. I think something like that was needed because in '90, Mike Tyson was on the ascent, and of course Don King was such a big kind of flamboyant name in the boxing promoting game that if he was going to do a movie like a Rocky, like a boxing movie, that having a character like that would have been something that's kind of interesting to it. And I actually like. I thought Richard Grant actually did a pretty good job doing this kind of like, almost
yeah.
kind of like an impersonation of of
Hmm.
um of Don King in there. And I thought he's fine as in the performance and all that. Now, whether he will be such a big cog in kind of like in the storytelling, that's something
Yeah,
else altogether. And I kind of get as well, we're using that character as kind of like a Mephisto kind of like guy who can promise Tommy Gunn the world and everything that Stallone can't promise him. That kind of works as well. But I don't know. I think like a guy like that. I think the problem with the movie is that there's kind of like a lot of nefarious characters, but there's not so many
hmm,
kind of characters that Rocky can rely on. Mickey's gone, Apollo's gone. Duke doesn't only shows up in the first 2 minutes or so when telling him how proud he is, how Apollo would be
yeah,
proud of him and such. And so the character who essentially kind of becomes that is Robert Jr. He's kind of like the guy who's supposed to be the wingman in a sort of way, but the character's too young and he's going through his own journey. So that doesn't
yeah.
really kind of work. But I thought it was fine. I mean, if are going to make a movie late 80s, early 90s boxing, you need to have a Don King like figure in there. And a lot of boxing movies afterwards had there. I think the most famous one that I've seen, which is a movie I liked, a lot of people don't like, is a film called The Great White Hype that Ron Shelton directed. And
Yeah,
Samuel Jackson kind of plays a boxing promoter in that same kind of
yeah.
near as well. Because I don't even remember in the first movies with a promoter as a character were ever featured in that way. We had managers, you had trainers, but a promoter I don't think is ever except for the first movie, right? Where Rocky's in the ring and he says to the guy, "Hey, my trunks are the wrong color," and
Yeah,
the
the
guy's like,
trunks, yeah.
"It doesn't matter, does it?"
Yeah,
That would
yeah.
that would have been that's only time, but that's pretty much. I think having a Don King like character, it was essential for depicting the period. But whether he needed to be such a big character like that, I'm not so sure about that.
Again, it was cartoonish. It's even like if you look at like Rocky 1 and 2 are very grounded and very realistic.
Mm,
Rocky 3, you could debate if you want, and I will disagree with you, that Mr. T with the mohawk and stuff like that, but he still comes off like a real person. And the same thing with Drago. He still comes off, yeah, he's huge, muscle, blonde, and Adonis, yeah. But you still believe the character, the person. I felt like I was watching like Looney Tunes. You have the Don King, dude, and that's all. I'm watching the movie, and all I'm thinking is this guy's doing a great Don King. So that takes me out of the reality of the film because he's
right.
not Don King. He's just an imitator. Then Tommy Gunn, when he's dating that girl with the big cans,
The redhead, yeah.
yeah, the redhead, and I don't know if you remember, but there's a scene where Tommy Gunn has the car, and Rocky's trying to appeal to him,
Yeah,
and Tommy Gunn and Tommy and the girl keeps busting balls. Oh, we're gonna be late. Da, da, da. Ah, honey, honey. And I'm like, I'm not even buying that. Like that girl will shut the fuck up and wait in the car. In real
yeah.
life, but her being like that, and even Tommy Gunn, yeah, would have corrected her, say, honey, I think at some point he does say, hey, we'll get there on time, but say, look, I'm trying to talk to this man. Sit down, shut up. I'll be there in a minute. But no, because it doesn't serve the whole like cartoonish villain MO of this movie. That Tommy Gunn becomes a villain, and the girl, the redhead's a villain, and so they're not people; they're caricatures to me.
Essentially, a lot of that has to come to the fight scene. He has to figure out how to get them two to fight each other. And in casting Tommy the Machine Gun, he gets Tommy Morrison. At
Yeah.
the time, he was ascending boxer of heavyweight. He doesn't win the championship until 93, but he's a hard hitter, first round knockout kind of stuff.
hmm
Like if you look at
hmm
there's highlights you can find on YouTube, and a lot of people unfortunately showed a highlight where Tommy Morrison got knocked out very brutally.
Yeah.
But people
Yeah.
need to see the highlights, like the montages of Tommy Morrison knocking out people. I mean, this guy was ferocious. I mean, he was just crazy in the ring. And I kind
He
of like
had
how they go ahead.
oh, sorry, I was just gonna say no. He had probably, in my opinion, guy followed his career. Uh, the best left hook in
Right.
boxing alongside Tyson, and which I'm sure they were supposed to fight, but Mr. Morrison, there was that whole AIDS controversy, and
Yeah.
did he have it? Did he not have it? Which I'm not going to get into. It's inconsequential, but he did pass. But
Yeah.
him and Tyson was going to be the next big thing, and you brought up the Great White Hype, which I loved, by the way, with Peter Berg,
Yeah.
which I brought up to Peter Berg once. I'm
Me
like, Great
too.
White Hype,
Me
yeah,
too. I did that too. I was
yeah,
interviewing him for Battleship, and we was just he and I talking, and the room was really cool. And I go, "Are you thinking about coming back to acting again?" Because like I got to say, one of my favorite films is Great White Hype, and he kind of chuckled, and I think he thought I was taking the piss out of him. But I was like, "No, I love
yeah,
that film. What's his name? Tommy Conklin, I think his name was in the film.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, but
He's like, but
yeah,
I'm not
so
Irish. I'm not Irish.
exactly,
Yeah, no, you are
exactly,
now.
exactly.
So Tommy Morrison, that's what he was being held at, is the Great White Hype. The Great White Hope. I mean, sorry.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's a shame how he ended. But I thought like his chemistry with Stallone and before he goes evil was fantastic. I thought a
yeah.
lot of people knocked his acting, but I thought he did fine for a non much like the gentleman whose name I forgot in Rocky Balboa that played Tarver, who's
Tarver,
also a
Antonio
real life
Tarver. Yeah.
yeah a real life fighter. I think they did fine. Yeah.
So
Eh,
he said at the time that he was 20 actually, like when he was like cast in the movie, which is crazy to think about, like 20 years old.
yeah.
And so he said that he's presented with his opportunity, and he's like he took it with two hands because he said Rocky was a movie that really inspired him to do boxing, especially going to
hmm
the bodies. Like it's like Rocky one, the body, and he loved doing that. And he said, but I can't act. And they said, we can help you with that. So they actually got a couple of acting teachers for him named Richard and Leslie Brander, that were called, and they kind of like the drama coaches, and they stayed on set and all that. Supposedly, they also helped out Sage Stallone and such as well. They kind of hung out on set for a long time because they were such a vital kind of help to it. But I thought he was actually really quite good in the movie. Again, he passed away at the age of 44 from all types of complications and stuff that was going on. But something that was interesting that I was kind of thinking about when I was watching the film recently, considering that there's a Don King-like character in the movie. Do you think Stallone ever thought of bringing in a Mike Tyson-like villain in the film, considering that Tyson was the premier boxer at the time? That would have been an interesting kind of foe to go against. Or do you think that having someone that's kind of similar to Rocky in a lot of aspects, comes from a poor background, he doesn't really have a father figure, he's looking for guidance and such, kind of made the way for Tommy Morrison to be the better kind of casting choice? Because I thought like if you're going to do a movie where it was Rocky didn't have brain damage and he had to do one last fight to save his family from poverty, for example, the villain I'd
hmm
want in that aspect would be like a hungry young bulldog kind of Tyson-like character for to fight against. That
Yeah.
would be that would be awesome.
Well, he kind of did it with Rocky 3. I mean,
Yeah.
Clubber Lang is basically a Mike Tyson type character. And actually, if memory serves me right, Stallone entertained Tyson for Rocky 3 to play like Clubber or something. And he said jokingly, well, I didn't want to get killed, during the shoot, so I didn't cast him. And Mr. T was amazing. Um, but no, obviously by having a mirror character like Tommy Gunn, somebody who comes from a poor family who's obviously not an intellectual. Um, I think it served the purpose of what the story he was trying to tell, where there's a parallel, but he turns on him. He doesn't have, like Adrian says in the movie, he doesn't have your heart, which is true. I just want to say that I'm never surprised when an athlete is a good actor
Hmm.
because what it takes to act, to give a good performance and fighting are there are two things that are the same, crucial. Number one is to be relaxed. You need to be not tense. You can't fight if you're tense, and you can't act if you're tense. And number two is, as an actor, you have to be able to listen, zone in, focus, and listen. And as a fighter, same thing, not listen to ears, but listen. You understand? Seeing,
Reactions.
So reactions, just being focused. So calmness and focus, being in the moment. These are things that apply to both boxing and acting. So I'm not surprised when a fighter turns out a fairly good performance.
The Matt's Movie Reviews YouTube channel is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love. There's this story I came across. I found it very interesting. So it was Tommy Morrison during the time of playing. Tommy Morrison during the time playing Tommy Gunn was actually still kind of fighting, and he has a fight in November. I'm just looking at his record here because they didn't say in the article which fight it was, but they had a date which was November, and so he was up against someone called Lorenzo Kennedy, and this will be the fight that would have taken him 20-0. I mean, he was undefeated fighter. But it was the first fight that kind of went to more than 1 or 2 rounds, because usually he was like a
Hmm.
first round, second round knockout
Hmm.
fighter. At that fight, Stallone and all the cast and stuff were there in Rocky Garbrandt because they wanted to film them taking Tommy to the ring, kind of like very reality based kind of stuff,
Hmm.
and doing their corner reactions and all that. And it took some haggling from Stallone to convince Tommy Morrison's team to say, hey, can we do this? And Stallone's like, oh my God, what happens if he knocks him out in the first round and such? It ended up being 6 round TKO in the fight. And so a lot of people kind of in the crowd blamed Stallone's presence there
Hmm.
for distracting Tommy Morrison, where supposedly one person yelled at Stallone, "You're a lousy trainer, Sly," to him at the time. So I thought that was pretty kind of funny there. Um, can we talk about the original ending for this film about the whole Rocky dying kind of thing?
Hmm.
Um, if he dies in the movie, if they went where they wanted to go and he dies, and I've seen the script, that those pages about him, what it was, and the eulogy that Adrian's supposed to give at the end of the film, I think the steps of Philadelphia with the Rocky statue there, what have you. Um, if that did happen in the movie and he died, um, the ramifications of that, looking back now, would have been kind of incredible, because
Hmm.
you wouldn't have Balboa number one, and doing
Hmm.
great things with that. And then you wouldn't have the Creed franchise either, which is like those ones as well. Do
Hmm.
you think it was kind of crazy to even think about killing him off in that movie, or do you think that, considering that this was supposed to be the last hurrah, and the early 90s, late 80s was all kind of like gritty and everything else, that maybe killing off a character like Rocky would have suited the zeitgeist of that time?
Well, I'm happy they didn't. I'm assuming, obviously, I don't know this for a fact, but I think that, Stallone himself, every time I hear like that somebody wants to kill off a character, like Daniel Craig, wanted to do the new Bond, the last Bond, but I have to die, is because they're done with the character and they don't want to come back. But, money always talks. So, they always come back. But by killing the character, if it's not a horror movie, then it's really hard to come back. So I think Stallone was done with Rocky in turn with Rocky 5. I think he did it because his other movies were not doing very well at that time and trying to go back to the well, as they say. And yeah, no, but I'm happy they didn't kill him. You know, it's Rock and Rocky Balboa wouldn't have happened if they killed him. So I'm really happy. Like I rewatched Rocky 5 for this conversation, but I rewatched Rocky Balboa right after to wash down Rocky 5 because I'm so happy that Stallone decided, it's not the way to end, this character and went and gave us an authentic, something that's real that really resonates to anybody that is older and still has stuff in the basement and
Yeah,
loss, life takes away, I lost my dad last year, so I'm getting to that age where life starts to take away. So these
yeah,
are all things that, there are universal themes that people can relate to. So I'm happy he came back with Rocky Balboa and didn't kill. And also even in Rocky Balboa, they wanted to kill him, I think, at a certain point. Or same thing, yeah.
yeah. Supposedly, Ryan Coogler, when he wrote the initial drafts for Creed, they were going to kill Rocky from cancer in that movie too, and still the
Yeah.
pushback came, and thankfully they didn't do that. It's funny though. Avildsen said in an interview that it was only a few weeks into shooting where the higher ups of like Fox, I think it was Fox that was doing Rocky at that time, um,
MGM. MGM.
MGM,
Oh,
MGM
United
were
or
doing
United Artists.
United Artists. Were they around?
Yes.
Yeah, United Artists.
Yeah.
And they said, look, no, we're not killing Rocky. Rocky doesn't die. And then they said, funnily, Batman doesn't die, Superman, James Bond, these people don't die. And it's funny, like 20 years later, James
Yeah.
Bond has been killed. They killed off Superman in the comics for a brief time there.
Yeah.
They now it's like they want to kill it, like Han Solo got killed in Star Wars, they want to kill off
Yeah.
everyone now in the movies, but thankfully Rocky kind of lived on there. Um, I want to talk about some of the things we liked and didn't like with the films. Let's start with the positive stuff. What's a parts of the film that you thought were really really cool in the movies? I'll share mine and you tell me yours as well.
Oh, well, like I said before, definitely the scene in the gym with Mickey.
Mm,
Yeah, the ghost of Mickey, if you will. The training montages and the fight montages, like the rise of Tommy. Wherein Tommy is having his championship fight, and it's intercut with Rocky on the heavy bag, and do what I do, do what I do, And I like that scene a lot because it really reinforces how Rocky is living through this kid. He's living through him. He's continuing his journey through the kid, and so I like that bit. And of course, I do like the end fight. My ring's outside,
mm,
and um, and the whole fight, and you could see too. They try to mess with the audience where Rocky's taking a beating before the whole "get up, you son of a bitch" and the train, and the resurrection of Rocky before that. You could kind of sense, okay, this would be it, where he would die. But thankfully, Mickey didn't hear no bell, and he gets back up and one more round, and so the end fight is fun, and I love, and I don't remember the exact quote, but at the end he goes up the stairs with Sage with
yep,
Robert, and one of his last line before the Elton John, great Elton John song, actually, I love that song,
Measure
kicks
of a
in is
Man.
some
Yeah.
measure of a man, yeah. He says something along the lines of, "I love everyone,"
Mm,
and I was like, if at that time it was going to be the ending, the last film, I was like, that's a great way to end off with that character, because yeah, that character doesn't have like a mean or hateful or spiteful a bone in their body. He's earnest, he's honest, he has values, and even I'm going in tangents here, but even in Rocky, the original Rocky, when he's like collecting and he's got to break the guy's thumbs, he's almost apologetic about it. It's like, I'm
yeah.
sorry, it's nothing personal. I'm just, yeah. So I thought it was great. So that's what I enjoyed about the film. Oh, and the opening when they show, the Rocky Four fight, the freeze frames that
Yes.
he does. And which is, I'm sure you've noticed, you see, even though Stallone didn't direct it, in Rocky Five, there's a lot of stylistic choices that we saw again in Rocky Balboa, that we saw in Rambo 4.
Yes.
So that's nothing is over, the flashes and everything like that.
I want to
So
talk to you about that. This is something I wanted to bring up. So when I first watched Rocky Five, I actually, because I was so young and I grew up watching Rocky, and to me, like, and I think the same with you, Rocky was a bigger superhero than the superheroes. He was like bigger than Batman. So this, he was the guy, right? And you
yeah,
feel in love with the character, and you went through this journey with him and everything else. And so the scenes, especially in the end fight scene, where he's getting pummeled, and then they do the black and white flashbacks to like Drago,
hmm
and there's that one scene where Stallone's blood is just cascading. Remember that scene
yeah,
with all
yeah,
that
yeah,
blood just
yeah,
cascading? It
yeah,
almost felt like a horror movie to me when I
yeah,
watched it, and it still
yeah,
does now. It's really kind of off-putting in one in the kind of way because it's just like, whoa, what the fuck's going on here, you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
And again, and I remember watching the fourth Rambo, that point you're talking about where he's kind of having the flashbacks when he's sleeping. Again,
yeah,
it's black and white. It's like the scene where he's getting cut by the Viet Cong in the
yeah,
POW, like all that stuff. It's a really effective kind of way to do it. And even the parts when Mickey's looking down, there's a shot where Mickey kind of cranes his head kind of really quickly.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah, I remember.
like a shing,
Yeah,
and it goes to his eye, and the eye opens up
yeah,
again. Very horror, that kind of
horror,
stuff.
yeah,
It does, and I felt scared. I felt really scared. Like, oh my God, they're gonna kill Rocky. Like, because that's just, especially with the part with the blood going, because he says, you hear Drago say, if he dies, he dies, and
he
build an
dies and
echo
then,
to it, and the blood.
yeah,
Fuck me, man. Like, I was just like, oh my God. Even now, when I'm talking, I got goosebumps kind of thinking about it because I think it was really effective, really kind of startling though when I saw that, and when I saw it again in Rambo, it's like, oh, I know what you're doing there. I remember that where you got that from. Um,
it's almost like Stallone, started this new style for himself as a director, where a character almost enters purgatory. That's what it
yeah,
feels like to me. It's like you're alive, you're here, but you're not here.
mm,
It's obviously they're not dreams, so they're visions or something. I don't know. It's just very otherworldly. Like you said like a horror movie. And I know all the shots you mentioned. I know, the Mickey, and there's
yeah,
even a heartbeat sound, that
yeah,
them
yeah.
throughout, and the blood, yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think Stallone went back to that again in his director's cut of Rocky Four, Rocky
Still
versus
haven't watched it.
Drago.
Still haven't watched it.
Really
Yeah,
interesting.
I do have a copy of it. I just haven't got a chance to watch it yet. I do need to watch it though because I know that a lot of the things that he's taken out because I watched that documentary he did in a 30-minute
Yeah,
documentary where he spoke
yeah.
about all the stuff he's taken out, so the robot and such and other stuff like that. And I know is the music different? Did they take away the what's that guy's name from the Rocky Four, the composer Vincent Cola, what's his name? Did they take that
Vince
music?
DiCola.
Vincent
I
Cola.
know
Did
they
they take
still
that
have
music out?
no training montage is still there. Da, 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 and War at the end is
Or
still
yeah,
there. Yeah.
okay.
But they changed I look, I like some of it. Yeah, I actually liked that they humanized Drago more, so more in
Okay.
parallel to the Drago we saw in Creed 2. So they humanized him, made him more of a human being. But for the most part, I like the theatrical cut better, especially the montages and the fight. Because, the training I've seen, and I'm sure you have too, and most people, that are Rocky fans have. I know this movie by heart, and
Mm.
No Easy Way Out, and
Wow.
the
Best
Hearts on
best
Fire.
best original song in the I always put that above Eye of the Tiger. That's just me though. No Easy Way Out because the montage is awesome and
Uh,
this I love that song. I don't know. That's just me though.
it's
That's
a
like
great
that's
song. It's a great
yeah.
song, but Eye of the Tiger is hard to beat. But
It's yeah.
in my opinion, obviously. Um, what was I talking about?
So we're talking about the Rocky Four director's cuts, some of the stuff that he
Oh
used
yeah,
that
yeah.
from
There's
Rocky Five. Yeah.
some shots didn't work. Like in the Hearts on Fire training montage, he adds like a shot of Rocky hitting the bag,
Mm.
which doesn't really work. Maybe because I've seen it so many times and I know what imagery I'm gonna see, and then I don't see it, and it kind of makes you feel weird. Like, okay, that's kind of weird. And one line, I'll just end it on that because it's about Rocky 5, not 4. But one line that I hated they took out is Bridget Nielsen's character in the theatrical cut says, "Well, how do you explain his freakish strength?" And she says, "Like do Popeye, he takes his spinach every day." They removed
Hmm.
that line. I'm like, come on, dude. So I felt there was too many things removed for the sakes of removing shit. But again, I like the humanized Drago.
Speaking of stuff that we like in the fifth one, for me, my favorite part is the street fight and the scene leading up to the street fight. The whole thing
Yeah.
about Tommy going to the bar and hitting Paulie. Um, and Paulie's a dick throughout the whole like all of the movies. He deserves to get hit sometimes, but in that case, he was actually standing up for Rocky, which was very kind of
Mhm.
out of character thing to do, but kind of like at the same time, kind of really cool as well. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon Prime Video. One of the best on-demand streaming services available, Amazon Prime Video features exclusive Amazon originals as well as popular movies and TV shows. Watch Amazon Prime Video anytime, anywhere. And it's easy to see the shift in the camera work. I don't remember much Steadicam throughout the film until the scene where Tommy walks into the pub. There's some Steadicam going on there, which kind of seemed a little different as well from
Mhm.
what I remember. The whole thing about Rocky saying you tried knocking him out, well, you tried knocking
Yeah.
me out now, and the whole why
Yeah.
rings outside, and then the
Yeah.
fight scene. I love the fight scene. Terry Funk was the one who choreographed that fight scene, and he was like Stallone's stuntman for like Paradise Alley. He did like Over the Top with him. He did some stunts in Rocky 3, and then he choreographed the whole thing in Rocky 5. And I actually really love Rocky 5 because the whole basis of that fight scene is it goes back to Rocky being the street fighter,
Mhm.
not the boxer. And there's some moves in there. There's one move where kind of
Yeah.
Stallone
Yeah.
spins,
Yeah.
grabs Tommy Lug's legs, and I was like, "Oh my God, I didn't know Rocky could do that." But then I remember Rocky 4 when he picks up Drago and he throws him to the ground, and that's where you kind
Yeah.
of get that kind of stuff from. I think the fight scene, I think the last 20-25 minutes of Rocky 5 is really, really good. I really love that stuff. Some of the stuff leading up to it, not so much, but that part in particular, I think is great. And that's a part where if I was gonna like just tell someone to like if they don't like film, just watch the end scene again. You'll like that part at least because I thought it was just fantastic. Um,
One thing tarnished the end fight with me because again, not authentic, is when Rocky's winning now finally against Tommy Gunn, and they cut to Robert with this weird shaky cam effect,
yeah, he took
and
my
he says
ring.
something, yeah, exactly, and I'm like, oh man, that's so cheesy.
Yeah,
Nobody, if I'm watching my dad, get fight, I'm not gonna say that. It's again, it's cartoonish. It's not authentic, in my opinion.
yeah.
I hated that line. Yeah.
Have you ever seen the deleted scene? I actually saw like 3 or 4 Rocky 5 deleted scenes on YouTube. And one of them was the end fight scene. And Rocky's pummeling Tommy Gunn. He hits the bus. And in the theatrical cut, he hits the bus, he slides down, he doesn't get up, it's over. And then he says,
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. In the
Yeah.
deleted scene, Rocky puts out his hand before he knocks him
Mm.
out and lifts him up. And then the cops take him away. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I've never seen that before.
Mm.
That would have been interesting if he did that. Like he took his hand, like at the end, going, "Look, you're a dick, but I still love you," kind of thing, and lifting him up and took him out. But they took about that out of the cut. I imagine people would just like fuck Tommy Gunn by that time, and they didn't want to see
Yeah.
get anything happening to him. Let's talk about the things we didn't like in this film. Let me go first on this one. The number one thing
Mm.
that really I really don't like about this thing, number one above everything else, going up is the illogical consistencies throughout the whole film. We talked already before about how it's just incredible to think that, a guy like Rocky can't, make a living, and still have some type of
Hmm.
comfortable life. Okay, that's a mind. The thing that always bums me out, and I touched on this before, is the whole continuity factor, which I just don't really get because he leaves to Russia for Christmas, 85. He fights
Yeah.
Drago.
Yeah.
Is he coming back? He's not coming back to America 86. It's America 1990, 1989 because of the music and everything else and everything that's
Hmm.
changed, right?
Hmm.
Stallone was very strong. He wanted Snap on the soundtrack. He got all that shit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the 3 or 4 years, it's never something that I was able to wrap my head around because if you watch Rocky 3, for example, to explain the timeline of events between Rocky winning the championship and fighting Clubber for the first fight, you have that awesome collage. You have 12 or let's say 10 title defenses, which probably
Hmm.
would have went like 4 years or so. You see him on the Muppets. He's doing that. He's doing
Yeah,
commercials now. He could do commercials. He's reading properly. He's got his face fixed
yeah.
up. All that kind of stuff. That explains that. Never explained in this one, and I never really understood why that was. And couldn't we have a thing where he comes back, he says he retires, and then he's in his mansion, and then he's like 4 years later or stuff like that, and then you see him in Philadelphia, and like maybe like in the span of 4 years, something happened to him where I don't know, some things like that. That's the number one thing that always bothered me about this film, and I didn't like about it. Because Stallone's a smart guy, he really is. He's actually quite a good writer and director, but that inconsistency right there always bothered me with Rocky Five.
Well, you actually nailed it beforehand. You said something along the lines of they were too busy thinking about the end game than the details along the
Yep.
way. I mean, obviously, Robert going from a child to a teenager in like this in a
Yeah.
day. Obviously, they're not idiots. They know, okay, that makes no fucking sense. But they're like, well, it's the story we want to tell. We want to, use, Rocky with Tommy gun, and he ignores his son. His son, is going through his own shit, and eventually they overcome and come back together again. So I think they just threw a lot of logic out the window to tell the story they wanted to tell, and unfortunately, they told it in a way didn't convince me.
Mm.
Um, like if you really stop and think about it, like Rocky is one of my favorite movie characters, much like you, and he gets brain damage, and I'm supposed to feel something about that, or actually, the only scene where I really is, like I said, the Mickey in the gym scene. With the Bill Conti music and the whole thing.
The cufflinks,
Then
yeah.
yeah, the cufflinks. I gave it to some bum. Um, but yeah, there's so much things in Rocky Five where I was supposed to feel something and I didn't feel it because I didn't buy it.
Right. What about
Yeah.
yourself when it comes to other kind of the more negative aspects of the film? What else kind of stands out for you?
Mhm. Oh, the Tommy turning on the dime thing always bothered me. Like it bothered me more than the sun and the jump from Rocky 4 to 5. Tommy, see, life is not black and white, as we all know. Life is gray, is nuance, look at Apollo, for example. Apollo
Mm.
was the bad guy in Rocky 1, but you still believed him you understood where he was coming from and who he was, and you believed him as a man, with his imperfections, like we all do. And then, eventually they become friends in 3. You believe that too. But Tommy Gunn going from that guy to that guy like that because of some loudmouth promoter and money, I just didn't believe that. And you could have done the same thing and have, Tommy turn on Rocky and everything like that in a way that makes sense, that is believable. That is not like, I switched off a light and boom, now I'm a bad guy. I didn't buy it. That always bothered me. That's probably my biggest problem with that film.
You know what it would have been a really good way to have Tommy turn? I reckon if he lost a fight
Yeah,
under under Rocky's tutelage.
yeah.
What if, he like lost a fight and then afterwards that's when the Duke character comes in and he's like, if you were with me, not only would you have won that fight, you would have made 10 times more money or stuff like that. I think you needed to have a friction there that came in the ring to
Hmm.
really turn Tommy's head. And then it would have shattered the illusion of what Rocky is as a trainer and a boxer and such, right? Because the thing that another inconsistency in the movie is that Stallone really goes hard in portraying Rocky in this with the brain damage. Like he comes off
Hmm.
as even less intelligent as the Rocky
Hmm.
in Rocky One. Like he's trying
Hmm.
really hard. Like he doesn't remember how to say certain phrases and such, and all the
Hmm.
things going on. Um, and I don't know, man. I think that even though he's like that, his tutelage as a boxer is working really well. Like he's molding Tommy into like,
Hmm.
what people call a puppet in the film. But if there was a moment in the film where the trainer lets down the boxer, but not preparing him well enough for a fight. And then afterwards, Tommy Gunn's like, I've been undefeated all this time. Now I'm all the way at the bottom of the stands or whatever. And you did this to me, kind of thing. And I'm going to go with this guy because he's better. That would have been a kind of cool way to kind of make it done. Of course, it didn't. I mean, we're backseat driving here, right? But it would have been
Hmm.
something they could have done. And again, it comes back to the illogical kind of approach that Stallone has on this. I think he was trying so hard to get a Rocky movie out there and kind of like hit the beats of maybe what the first one was that he didn't really think it through properly about how it was all going to come together. And there's flashes of really cool stuff here, but overall, I think it's the reason why it's all the way down at the bottom whenever
Hmm.
people talk about the Rocky movies. But yeah, I mean, look, he did the director's cut for four for whatever reasons he wanted to do it, even though everyone loves four. It's the most successful one out of the whole franchise. I'd
Hmm.
imagine as well that four is kind of like four or three are kind of like the gateway films to go into the Rocky films. Like if I
Yeah.
was going to show my kids who are 13 and 10 a Rocky film first, I'll go
And
with three.
before. Oh
Go
yeah, I'd
four
go
first.
for it.
I go
Yeah.
three so they know Apollo first and then go four.
Yeah.
And then you
Yeah,
go back
good
to one
point.
because one will be a little slow, right? For him
Yeah.
at this age, right? Um, but so he does four. Do you think that, and I know he doesn't like the film, he hates it, he swore it, that's why he made Balboa. Do you think that there could be a way for him to do a sort of different cut of five that could save it? Or do you think the pieces just aren't there, no matter how you assemble it, it's going to turn out to be just a not like an average movie at best in the Rocky
No,
franchise?
I think there's a better movie there. And I don't know if you've seen it online. There's the rough cut of Rocky
Right, okay.
Five
Is that
with
right?
yeah, with no hip hop, no rap or anything, and and it's darker in terms of the photography, which feels more authentic. So no, I think you could better the movie definitely. If you change the music, if you darken it and make it look more like Rocky One, which was the intent, they just
Mm.
didn't pull it off. And who knows? Like you mentioned, a deleted scene, of him extending his hand, which is actually, I wish they would have put that moment in the movie, and even more moments like that, because that's where it goes to what I was talking about. Nuance, black, not black and white. He just fought, but they were brothers like 5 frames ago. Yeah, he extends his hand. That humanizes everything that's happening. But by removing that, then yeah, the bad guy lost, and the good guy won, and here we go. So if there's more deleted scenes like that layers or nuances everything that's happening, then they'd make the film better.
I actually found three deleted scenes. So one of them was a fight with extending the hand. Another one was Rocky and Adrian in bed just talking.
Hmm.
He's like, Rocky's like, how did it come to this, like that kind of stuff, and Adrian being like very kind of sympathetic and loving towards him, which is something I thought that was kind of missing in the fifth one as well. That the relationship between Adrian and Rocky wasn't. You didn't really feel the love a lot of times. It was just kind of like almost like a workaday kind of thing between them, and that was
Hmm.
a really cool
Hmm.
scene. I liked it quite a bit. And then there's another scene where Rocky and Paulie, I think maybe Tommy was with them, I don't remember, are leaving the gym. And of course, in the Rocky films, always have kind of like the guys around the fire and the barrels in the fire. And
Yeah,
little
yeah.
Marie's there. And little
Okay.
Marie's there. And he goes, hey, little Marie. And it turns out all the things that Rocky said would happen to her in the first movie came true. And
Mm.
that's and that the last line he says to us was, "You should have listened to me, little Marie." And that was a really cool scene as well. But then again, if that film was in there, if that scene was in there, then Rocky Six would have kind of been less because little Marie shows up again
Yeah.
as a character there. But yeah, like there are scenes out there that Stallone I think can use and put in the film and actually make it richer, especially the scene between Rocky and Adrian. I actually thought it was really a really cool, nice scene as well. I really liked it a
Mm.
lot. He's in the basin, he's washing his face, he comes to the bed, she's there waiting for him, they're talking. It's really kind of just there's a sensitivity about it and a thing about it
Mm.
between the two, which I thought would have been really good. I'll send you links afterwards so you can have a watch of these. They're really cool.
Sure, sure,
But yeah,
definitely.
perhaps a director's cut could come. I hope so. I mean, if it was going to come, it would have been this year. This is like the anniversary. Like it came out like what 45 years ago, back in November, October, I think it was. 45 years of Rocky 5 this year
Yeah,
because it came out
yeah,
in
I think so.
1990.
Yeah. Well, we Stallone only did Rocky versus Drago, because it was the pandemic,
Right.
and he needed to be, creative and do his stuff, and he did. Um, I'd like to believe that if Stallone recuts another one of his films, it wouldn't be Rocky Five because he already did good with Rocky Balboa. Rocky
Mm,
Balboa erases Rocky Five, so I don't think he has, from what I know, interest in Rocky Five. But Cobra,
mm,
that'd be the recut that I would pay money to see. I mean, if Stallone is you're watching this and you have a crowdfunding campaign, finance, my recut of Cobra, I'm ponying up, man, because that's a movie that I love Cobra. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But there's a real movie in there that they cut out.
mm,
It's 85 minutes long. I don't know if you rewatched Cobra recently, but my God, and I'll rewatch it again because it's Christmas.
hmm.
But there's
Wait, 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 wait,
zero.
wait, 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 wait. Wait, I gotta
Yeah,
go back on that. Cobra's a Christmas film for you, is it?
yeah,
Is that there's got Christmas stuff in it? I don't remember it if they
yeah.
did.
The opening. Yeah, the opening.
Oh yeah, 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 you're right. Well, Rocky Five is also a low-key Christmas movie, right? Isn't there a scene where
Yeah,
Paulie's dressed like Santa and he comes out?
yeah, yeah.
Christmas movies everywhere. All right, go ahead. I just want
Yeah,
to yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, that's it. There's just no fat on that movie. It just moves, but too fast for
Mm,
its own good. And obviously, I've read a couple of the early, like I read an early draft of the script, and I read the shooting script. And even the shooting script has more fat. So I'd love to see that, but I don't think we ever will because we would have seen it already, I think. Or like when Factory put out Cobra, I was like, okay, this is it. If we're gonna
mm,
get like a director's cut, or this would be it, and we didn't. And even if I remember correctly, they even said they let out a release that all they could find is the TV version because the TV version has a lot of the deleted scenes to pad up the clock time because they removed a lot of violence.
right.
So that's the one I would love Stallone to pull off personally. You?
Yeah, I think it'll be a good one to do. Nighthawks will be another one as well, because supposedly there was like some stuff there as well they could work with. Um, I rather see director's cuts of something like that than watching something like a reboot of like I know there's a new clip, isn't there a new cliffhanger with Lily James or something coming out next year? Something kind of crazy like
Doesn't
that.
that doesn't exist in my world, but yes, there
Yeah.
is.
So
Yeah.
like I'd rather watch like stuff like that. And plus next year I think is will be 2026, so there'll be a 40-year anniversary of Cobra next year because that came out in 86,
Nice.
right? So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if it does happen, that would be good timing for it. I don't know if he would do anything like that because he's busy with Tulsa King and such. But I think
Hmm.
it would be cool if we see some of these older films get a little bit of a a little bit of a remaster, a little bit of shine, a little polish to it. Because then we
Yeah.
can watch it again. Maybe put it back in cinemas again. I don't know. Maybe that would be
Oh, I'd
cool.
love it. I'd love to. I mean, I would love to see like Cobra on the big screen. I don't think I've ever seen it on the big screen. No.
I haven't. No, I need to just watch it on
No.
video when it came out on DVD
Yeah,
now.
me too. Me too.
So
Because
another.
yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say I would I would rather that I like when there's director's cut or changes to movies when the movie begs for it. So, for example, Rocky Five begs for it. Cobra, because of the lack of fat, begs for it as well. But Rocky Four didn't beg for it. Rambo 4, I like the theatrical cut way better than the director's cut
Hmm.
because Stallone removed a lot of stuff that I love. The only thing that he added that I really loved was the prayer. The prayer, and while he's building the thing, there's a prayer as opposed to killing is easy as breathing, a monologue. You know who you are, you know what you are, blah blah blah. Oh, it's literally a prayer, if I remember correctly, to the angel Michael,
Is
and
that
I love
is
that bit.
is that the missionaries doing the prayer? Or is that him saying the prayer?
No, it's the Trotman kind of like
Yeah,
replacement dude when he
yeah,
comes on the boat and tells him that, and then it cuts to him building his basically his machete, his knife, if you will.
yeah.
He's saying the prayer. He starts a prayer praying for Rambo, and Rambo walks
Right.
away, and then they cut to. Dude, it's on YouTube. Check out that scene. It's
Okay.
really, really powerful for, especially if you're a man a believer. a follower of Christ, it really hits, and as Stallone is,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's the only bit from that movie that I wish they would have kept it in Rambo. So all that to say, Stallone seems to do director's cuts of movies that don't need it.
Mm.
Rocky Four didn't need it.
Yeah.
Um, I personally don't think that what's the other one? Rambo 4 needed it. Definitely not. I'd love a director's cut of Rambo 5,
Mm.
Rambo Last Blood, which, obviously has some stuff, probably a lot of stuff left on the editing room, the cutting room floor. So, yeah.
Well, one film that talking before how great I see Cobra at a big screen. One film that I think will never get back to theaters again unless it's a different cut is Rocky Five. It is a incredibly flawed movie. It's the least like for a good reason. But I think as we spoke about, there's some cool things in there, and there could be a potential. It had potential to be something better than it was, and I think we can see it sometimes in the movie. Regardless, Rocky Five, it's out there now. It has been for a long time. We did get Rocky Balboa and cut those first two Creed movies to kind of redeem the Rocky Balboa spirit. John, I want to thank you so very much for joining me today, talking Rocky Five. I knew as soon as I wanted to talk about this film, there's only one guy that I could talk to about Stallone movies in the way that we talked about today. That's you, John, and
No,
yeah,
thank you.
thank you so very much for your time, and Merry Christmas to you, sir. But considering Rocky
Thank
Five
you.
is a somewhat of a Christmas movie, Merry Christmas
Yep.
to you, and I give a good old Paulie, top of the bottle to you.
Thanks, bro. Thank you. And Merry Christmas to you, and God bless you and your family. And, until the next time.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content.